Sonic Triple Trouble is a rather overlooked Sonic game, being one of the ones to come out on the Sega gamegear. Called Sonic and Tails 2 in Japan since it was made after the previous gamegear game using the same engine called Sonic and Tails in Japan and Sonic Chaos everywhere else. Not that the two games really have any other connections. Sonic Triple Trouble was my first classic Sonic game and caught my attention on the front page of the 3DS eShop. Because of Knuckles, I thought this was Sonic 3. What? He can fly? But I've really come to enjoy this one. It's fun, the 8-bit graphics look really appealing, the music is delightful, and oh my gosh, Sunset Park Act 3, running on the top of a train to get to the engine at the front, which is also a badnik, and that music, wow! But on close inspection, I think I've noticed something about this game I don't believe anyone else has ever talked about or even considered. So, let's begin. Triple Trouble is the name, as the trouble is tripled with 3 antagonists. Dr. Robotnik as per usual, as well as the debut of Fang the Sniper / Knack the Weasel, and Knuckles. Why is Knuckles an antagonist? Why is he trying to stop Sonic getting the Chaos Emeralds? Guess he was tricked into working for Eggman again, but also right after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the game he was introduced in and betrayed by Eggman in, where he helped Sonic? Well, let's go back and take another look at what happens in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Following the events of Sonic 2, the Death Egg crashes into the floating Angel Island, bringing it into the ocean below, where our Doctor is encountered by a young Knuckles the Echidna who vowed to protect his sacred island and its precious Master Emerald from any threats. Robotnik, seizing the opportunity, tricks Knuckles by convincing him he means him no harm and just wishes to power up his space station and leave the island. But the real threat is a dangerous blue hedgehog armed with the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds and a multi-tailed fox. Now, Knuckles is gullible, but he's not an idiot. He's a kid who's lived mostly isolated on this island as its protector, with only the small animals for company. I'm not even certain he's even aware what the Chaos Emeralds were, but if they're anything like his Master Emerald, then this hedgehog could clearly not be trusted with them. And so, he chooses to trust the word of the Doctor. And this is pretty consistent between the Japanese and English versions of the game's manuals, as well as the animated cutscene in Sonic Origins, which is actually kind of rare for the Japanese and English manuals to be perfectly synced back in the 90s Sonic games, and the game itself starts with Super Sonic gliding onto the island only to get the emeralds knocked out of him by Knuckles, who takes and sends them back to the special stages out of reach, cementing himself as the antagonist trying to impede Sonic's progress, placing traps and using all the secret passageways he knows around the island, all leading up to their final confrontation in the Hidden Palace Zone. The mural in the background has never been given an explanation, but has fascinated fans for years, and seemingly depicts the game's Doomsday Zone, like an ancient prophecy or something. And maybe that's what influenced Knuckles' decision to trust Eggman being told about an emerald-powered hedgehog. Of course, how would he know what it's supposed to be depicting? Is one of the figures stealing the emerald, and the other trying to protect it? Or is it the other way around? But fate is full of irony, as while Knuckles was distracted fighting Sonic, Robotnik attempts to steal the Master Emerald. Through visuals alone, it's communicated Knuckles' confusion and realization that he's being played, and in that moment, Sonic's not important. Getting the Master Emerald back is. And Knuckles gets electrocuted and falls down into a pit with Sonic and Tails as Eggman escapes. When Knuckles wakes up, he knows where to put his priorities, and instead of continuing to punch Sonic in the face, as tempting as it may be, he stops and thinks for a moment, and with all his knowledge of getting around the island, tells Sonic and Tails to follow him to a teleporter that brings them to Sky Sanctuary, where they can catch up to the Death Egg before it gets too far away. But getting electrocuted has taken its toll on him, and knowing he's too worn out to go himself, he opens the path forward for Sonic and Tails, knowing full well that they would stop at nothing to stop Robotnik. If you try and wait for him, he waves his arm as if to say, "What are you waiting for? Go!" Once the story concludes, Sonic and Tails return the Master Emerald and take their leave. Knuckles shows up and watches them from a distance. Doesn't wave or anything, just watches, and the credits roll. So safe to say everyone's on the same side, and Knuckles should be cool with Sonic now, right? So why is it when we next see him in Sonic Triple Trouble, he's trying to stop Sonic from getting the Chaos Emeralds again? Well, I'm sure I have an answer for you, but before I do, let's dive into Sonic Triple Trouble's story. The English manual says, while the evil genius Dr. Robotnik is testing the ultimate destructive weapon, one of his assistants makes a big mistake. The resulting explosion scatters 5 of the Chaos Emeralds across the planet Mobius and sets off a high-speed emerald hunt. Which is a bit brief and mentions Mobius because Sega of America were always making changes to the stories when localizing them in English in one way or another. But comparing to the Japanese version, we get a lot more. Wah! Oh no! That day, Dr. Eggman made a mistake. The Chaos Emeralds that he had finally managed to collect while hiding from Sonic were blown out of nowhere in an accident while testing the final weapon. He managed to recover one of the 6, but he had no idea where the other 5 had gone. It looks like Sonic found out about this. I'll have to get the emeralds back before he does! Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails, as Eggman had predicted, had already sensed something strange and had begun to take action. As they were running around gathering information on the emeralds, they were suddenly confronted by a stranger. "Sonic, you scoundrel!" Which alternatively has been translated as villain, traitor, and bastard. "Your ambitions will be thwarted by me, Knuckle!" That is, certainly a sentence. Knuckle. Knuckle stood in their way with no sense or reason as to why, and there's one more person who's smiling as he watches them bicker. Neither Sonic nor Eggman count for squat! While they were at it, the Chaos Emeralds were obtained by me, none other than treasure hunter Fang the Sniper. It seems that this case is not as straightforward as usual. What are you gonna do, Sonic?
Isn't it obvious? With some courage, I can do anything! Toot Toot Sonic Warrior!
So what, Eggman tricked Knuckles again, right after the first time? Geez, how many times has this happened now? In Adventure he has a good excuse. Eggman tells him Sonic was going after the Master Emerald shards. Knuckles isn't sure he believes him, but sure enough he sees Sonic holding a green Chaos Emerald, which from a distance looked like a Master Emerald shard. Well, alright then, I'm gonna make Sonic hand it over. See? Not dumb. Gullible. And then Sonic advanced to, yeah, I don't think we ever found out how Knuckles got tricked into this one, and he's already embarrassed about it. Hang on, is he controlling the machine to fight us, or is he trapped in the machine unable to do anything as it fights on its own? I guess it doesn't matter. Why would Knuckles get tricked in Triple Trouble anyway, since it's right after Sonic 3? Why would Knuckles willingly work with Robotnik, especially when he's already got a lackey in the form of the rebuilt Metal Sonic, making his return after Sonic CD? You can just ignore Sonic 4, a lot of us already do. Actually, come to think of it, we all remember Knuckles being tricked to work for Eggman in Triple Trouble. Even Tails Tube features it, but where is it actually mentioned? The only thing I could find was Knuckles' character bio. Strong sense of justice, he was tricked by Eggman into thinking Sonic is a villain who wants to use the Chaos Emeralds to take over the world. He's short-tempered, but he's an honest good guy at heart. Hold up one moment. It's not just me, right? But does something seem a bit off here to you? Because I'm getting a crazy sense of deja vu. Eggman tricks him into thinking Sonic is a villain who wants the Chaos Emeralds. And then Eggman tricks him into thinking Sonic is a villain who wants the Chaos Emeralds again. They just reused the same backstory as Sonic 3. Almost word for word. Wait a minute. Hang on! Is his character bio talking about this game? Or is this bio's description just recapping Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the game Knuckles was introduced in? So maybe, has this just been misinterpreted for years by fans and official sources alike? Eggman didn't trick Knuckles in Triple Trouble, it's the same trick he fell for in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. At the end of the game, due to the circumstances, he took a risk and chose to put his faith in Sonic to stop Eggman, but that doesn't necessarily mean he trusts Sonic now either. They never really made up and became friends at the end of the game, and when the Master Emerald was returned, Knuckles now knows Sonic wasn't interested in it, and it was Eggman who wanted its power for himself. However, as Knuckles watches them fly away from afar, he still doesn't know what Sonic's deal is. And with those emeralds, he's still dangerous. I mean, have you seen Supersonic? Heck, have you seen Hypersonic? Yeah, that's dangerous! Perhaps with his strong sense of naive justice, Knuckles decides to take back the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic to make sure they don't fall into the wrong hands. The Chaos Emeralds seem to have a connection to the Master Emerald too. Maybe he thought it best to take them for safekeeping. After all, in Sonic Adventure he does the very same thing upon defeating Chaos, where he brings the 6 Chaos Emeralds left behind to the Master Emerald altar with him. So in Triple Trouble, Eggman and Knuckles aren't on the same side in this game. They're both trying to get the Chaos Emeralds before Sonic, for their own reasons. Same as Fang. Triple Trouble. All 3 of them are in this for themselves. The game's antagonists for separate reasons with the same goal of getting the Chaos Emeralds before Sonic. But then, why does Knuckles pilot an Eggman machine during his boss fight? Unless Eggman didn't give it to him, maybe he stole it. Because you could do just that to the Eggmobile in Sonic 3. Oh my gosh, it makes so much more sense. Come to think of it, you want to know something else that's interesting? In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, playing as either Sonic or Tails has the exact same story, but playing as Knuckles has his own story campaigns separate from Sonic's. A lot of us just assumed this was his point of view during the main story, but in actuality it takes place afterwards. Sonic and Tails have already left the island and peace has returned. However, beating Doomsday Zone with Super Sonic and not Hyper Sonic, which gives you the congratulations screen for completing the game, beating Doomsday Zone as Super Sonic grants you a teaser of one of the Egg Robos rising from the wreckage, and it's this Egg Robo that stirs trouble for Knuckles in his story and takes control of Eggman's machines. Both of these were from Sonic and Knuckles. A reminder that Sonic and Knuckles was a standalone cartridge released months after Sonic 3, with the two coming together to create Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But if you played just Sonic and Knuckles on its own, you wouldn't be able to get the Super Emeralds, making the Super Sonic ending the main ending, leading you to the Egg Robo teaser that you'd follow up by playing Knuckles' story. Although there is a couple things about his campaign that don't make much sense. Like why are the Chaos Emeralds on Angel Island again when Sonic left with them? Why are Sonic and Knuckles acting like pals at the end when immediately afterwards they're enemies again in Triple Trouble? And that's where my theory of this video becomes more exciting. Sonic & Knuckles was released October 1994. Triple Trouble was released only a month later. Makes sense they'd want a portable companion title around the same point in time. Knuckles was very popular and being marketed as Sonic's rival, taking Chaos Emeralds and setting traps for Sonic, which is consistently on theme with Sonic 3. But this game is no copycat of Sonic 3, it is more significant to Knuckles than you may realize. My theory is that Sonic Triple Trouble takes place right after the main story of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but before the Knuckles story in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. With the context I set up earlier about Knuckles still seeing Sonic with the Chaos Emeralds as a potential threat, Triple Trouble takes place not long afterwards. In Triple Trouble's backstory, Eggman obtains the Chaos Emeralds for testing, but an accident causes them to fly off, only managing to keep one and sets off to find the others, while Sonic and Tails detect their energy signature and decide to go after them too. And Knuckles takes advantage of the opportunity as well. And then there's Fang, who sees the Chaos Emeralds as valuable treasures he can sell for lots of money. Near the tail end of the game, Knuckles is defeated and captured by Metal Sonic. This is a pretty cool comeback reveal for Metal Sonic, solidifying himself as a series mainstay. He retains his abilities from Sonic CD, but instead of a race, he and Sonic have a direct head-to-head fight. After both Metal Sonic, Fang, and Eggman are all defeated, Sonic finds Knuckles trapped in a cage and frees him. The two never really made up after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but here in this moment, Sonic raises a hand, and after a moment of hesitation, Knuckles raises his. And the two shake hands, and this was the moment Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles the Echidna first became on good terms, and the two escape Eggman's base together. As Sonic and Tails take the tornado to their next adventure, Knuckles heads home to Angel Island, but I reckon Sonic let him take the Chaos Emeralds with him. Sonic has no need for them. After Sonic 2, he basically chucks them whenever an adventure is over. No wonder creeps like Robotnik and Fang keep getting their grubby mitts on them. They're probably safer with Knuckles anyway, and Knuckles can finally rest. Except, oh no! Egg Robo's wreaking havoc! Can't let that run loose! But unbeknownst to Knuckles, the Egg Robo wasn't the only malfunctioning robot left behind on the island that's come back to life. Knuckles chases the Egg Robo all across the island as it uses all of Eggman's previous boss mechs. No, that doesn't count! Eggman's not actually here, this was a glitch, they forgot to swap out the sprite, Sonic Origins fixed this. But it's at Sky Sanctuary where the real stuff goes down. Egg Robo is destroyed by Mecha Sonic, who survived his defeat from Sonic and has stolen the Master Emerald. I guess Sky Sanctuary technically counts as part of Angel Island, since it hasn't fallen back into the sea yet? Knuckles may have lost to Metal Sonic, but he wasn't gonna hold back against this trash. And if you think about it, a sinister-looking Sonic that can transform into a super form is kind of reflective of the unknown threat Sonic and the Chaos Emeralds could have represented to Knuckles as well. And after a tough battle, Mecha Sonic explodes, causing the platform they were on to collapse. But just in time, Knuckles catches the Master Emerald, while he himself is caught by Sonic in the tornado. Knuckles looks back at Sonic with a thumbs up and a big ol' grin on his face. Rivals they may be, but friends for life. Looking at these two, technically 3 games, from this point of view, suddenly Sonic Triple Trouble goes from an obscure one-off adventure to bridging the 2 stories of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, completing this Echidna story arc, and I freaking love it. I recommend you give Sonic Triple Trouble a go if you can. It's currently available as one of the Game Gear games in Sonic Origins. I'm also aware of the 16-bit fan remake of Triple Trouble. I have not experienced it yet for myself. I believe it interprets Knuckles being an antagonist in a very different way I did. Something about it being a fake Knuckles who turns out to be Metal Sonic in disguise or something? I don't know, I gotta check it out for myself at some point. And if I don't say this now, somebody will in the comments, but even though Mecha Sonic is seen exploding, most of him managed to remain intact as he ended up getting his own story in the form of the IDW comic Scrapnik Island, which is a pretty awesome story. Well anyway, that's it for today. Till next time, stay tuned and stay awesome.